Today's experience was sent to us by a sister. God revealed to her who the next American president will be. Kindly stay to end to fully understand her experience. My name is Laraka Clement. I had this experience on the 4th of February 2024. It was a typical Sunday morning, and the church was filled with the sound of worship. The atmosphere felt thick with expectation, the kind that makes you feel as if something powerful is about to happen. I stood among the congregation, my hands lifted high, eyes closed, completely lost in the moment. I could feel the presence of God so deeply that it made everything else fade away. The world outside the church walls no longer mattered. This was a moment between me and the God. As I worshiped, I felt a strange sensation in my chest, almost as if I was being pulled somewhere. It was subtle at first, but it grew stronger with each passing moment. Suddenly, it happened. I wasn't in the church anymore. I found myself standing in a vast, open space. There was nothing familiar here, just an endless expanse, and the air around me began to change. It was clouding, as if the sky itself was preparing for something monumental. The clouds swirled and thickened, and I knew, somehow, that I was no longer in the physical realm. This place was different, otherworldly. My heart began to race. What was happening? I stood there, alone in this great clouded expanse, waiting, unsure of what to expect. And then, out of the stillness, came a sudden crack of thunder. It was so loud, so sudden, that I felt it reverberate deep in my chest, as though the very ground beneath me had shaken. My instinct was to brace myself, expecting a downpour to follow, the kind of heavy rain that washes everything clean, drenching the earth in seconds. But the rain didn't come. Instead, something else caught my eye. High above me, through the swirling clouds, I saw two shapes falling from the sky. At first, they were just distant, dark silhouettes, barely visible against the thick clouds. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Were they pieces of debris? Strange objects? I watched them fall, tumbling slowly at first, but gaining speed as they came closer and closer to the ground. As the shapes grew clearer, my breath caught in my throat. They weren't objects at all, they were bulls. Two massive, powerful bulls, running side by side, almost as if they were connected somehow. It was an odd sight, watching these two great beasts run together, almost hand in hand, as though they were partners in some kind of race. I stood frozen, unable to move. As they drew nearer, something even more startling caught my eye. The bulls were painted, not in random colors, but in the familiar pattern of the American flag. Red, white, and blue streaked across their bodies, the stars and stripes boldly covering their massive frames. Then I noticed the faces. On one of the bulls, I could clearly see the image of Donald Trump, his likeness painted on its side. The other bull bore the image of Kamala Harris. Both bulls ran in perfect sync, neither one slowing down, neither one acknowledging me as they barreled forward. The bulls thundered past me without so much as a glance. It was as if I didn't exist in their world, just a bystander to something far greater than myself. And then, as if the vision were shifting around me, the scene opened up. In the distance, standing tall and unmistakable, was the White House. The bulls, still charging ahead, were now racing toward it with all their might. It became clear that this was a race toward the seat of power, a race for control. But the closer they got to the White House, the harder it became to tell who was in the lead. At one moment, it seemed like Trump's bull was ahead. Then, in the next breath, Harris's bull would surge forward. The two were neck and neck. From my vantage point, it was impossible to tell who would reach the White House first, and the tension of it gripped me, leaving me breathless. As the bulls disappeared into the distance, suddenly, a loud cheer erupted from somewhere far away. It was a shout of celebration, the kind that echoes through a crowd when victory is claimed. But I stood there, frozen, confusion tightening in my chest. Who were they celebrating? I couldn't see the finish line, couldn't tell which bull had crossed it first. Was it Trump's bull? Was it Harris's? The noise of jubilation only deepened my frustration. The race was over, and yet I had no idea who had won. My heart raced with impatience. I needed to know. I needed to know who had claimed the White House, who would be the next president. The uncertainty gnawed at me, leaving me uneasy and restless. Everyone else seemed to be rejoicing, but I was left in the dark, aching to understand what had just unfolded before me. I stood there, helpless, my eyes searching the distance, but I still couldn't see who had reached the White House. My heart pounded with desperation. Who were they celebrating? Was it Trump? Was it Harris? The bulls had vanished into the fog, and I was left with nothing but the echo of a victory I couldn't comprehend. The uncertainty was maddening. I had to know. As I stood there, struggling with my growing frustration, I suddenly sensed a presence beside me. Startled, I turned and saw a figure standing quietly at my side. He had appeared without a sound, his presence calm yet commanding, as though he had been there all along, waiting for the right moment to reveal himself. There was something comforting about him, though I couldn't place why. He didn't speak at first, simply observing the scene with a quiet knowing in his eyes. Then, as if he could feel the turmoil inside me, he glanced my way and gently nodded, acknowledging the frustration that was consuming me. "You're troubled," he said, though the words were unnecessary. He could see it in my face, in the way I gripped my hands tightly in impatience. I felt a strange sense of calm as he continued. "The ways of God," he said, "are not like the ways of men." Then, slowly, he began to unveil the meaning behind the vision I had just witnessed. He revealed that the upcoming election would be no ordinary race. It would be a fierce battle between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. The race I had seen, with the bulls charging toward the White House, was a reflection of the intensity of the struggle that lay ahead. Both would fight with all their strength. But then he spoke of something deeper, something more profound than the political contest. He revealed that, despite the chaos and the intensity of the election, God's mercy was still upon the American nation. God was watching, not indifferent but deeply invested in the outcome, and his will would ultimately guide what was to come. It wasn't about the will of men or the strength of their ambitions. It was about a higher purpose that only God could truly know. He continued to reveal more about the vision and its implications for the future. He spoke of God's intervention in the upcoming election, making it clear that it wouldn't be a matter of human will alone. Despite the fierce competition between Trump and Harris, it was not solely their choices or their strengths that would determine the outcome. God was preparing to step in, to influence the course of events in a way that would align with his divine purpose. God's decision was to place someone on the presidential seat who would fulfill his will. This person would not merely continue the status quo but would ensure that the agenda of evil, an agenda that had begun to infiltrate the nation, would not come to pass. God's protection would safeguard against these malevolent plans, preserving the nation from the consequences of evil. His expression grew solemn as he continued to share the deeper insights of the vision. He spoke of God's growing displeasure with certain movements within the nation. Specifically, he revealed that God was not pleased with the current LGBTQ movement and its increasing influence. He also mentioned the rising influence of Antichrist policies within various sectors of the American government. These policies, he explained, were part of a larger, troubling shift that sought to undermine the values and principles that God holds dear. Amidst this, Christians were facing increasing persecution. The policies and movements that were taking hold were contributing to a climate of intolerance and hostility toward those who held Christian beliefs. He made it clear that God was preparing to place a leader in power who would align with his will. This leader would not be just another political figure, but someone specifically chosen to uphold divine purposes and counteract the negative influences that had been rising in the nation. Yet, despite this revelation, he did not reveal the identity of this chosen leader. As his words faded, the vision began to dissolve, the clouded space and the intense imagery slowly melting away. I felt a sudden shift, like being gently pulled back from a distant realm, and I found myself once more standing in the surroundings of the church. I stood there, my mind racing to process what I had just experienced. The intense images of the bulls, the distant race toward the White House, and the figures' revelations about God's will and the future of the nation all felt so real, yet so surreal. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something profoundly significant, but the exact meaning and implications were still unraveling in my mind. As the service continued around me, I reflected deeply on the vision. Believers, I urge you to take this experience seriously. When God reveals something as profound and significant as what was witnessed in the vision, it is a divine call to action. Such revelations are not mere dreams or random occurrences. They are messages that carry great weight and importance. If God has chosen to unveil the future and the challenges that lie ahead, it is because He desires our earnest prayer and intercession. We are called to pray fervently, asking for His will to be accomplished and for His chosen leader to rise according to His plan. Our prayers can influence the unfolding of these divine plans and ensure that God's purposes are realized. Let us not dismiss these revelations lightly. Instead, let us commit to praying with conviction and dedication, aligning ourselves with God's will and seeking His guidance for the nation and its leaders. Our prayers are powerful, and through them, we can play a crucial role in bringing about the divine outcomes that God has promised. To all believers in America, it is vital that we heed the call to action that comes from such profound revelations. If God has placed a vision or a specific leader on your heart, it is crucial that you act upon it. Voting is not just a civic duty, it is a spiritual responsibility. Go out and vote for the person you believe God is guiding you to support. Your vote is a powerful expression of faith and obedience. Without the participation of believers, the outcomes of these divine revelations may not come to pass as intended. We must exercise our right to vote with discernment and conviction, aligning our choices with the guidance we receive from God. Let us be active in our civic duty, trusting that our participation can help fulfill the divine plans revealed to us. Thank you for watching this testimony till the end. If you have been blessed, please kindly share it to about 2 or 3 people you care about the most, and may God bless you as you do so. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more testimonies like this. Until next time, remain blessed.